Oh no, that can't be good.
There we go.
What the heck happened?
Apparently nothing.
Okay.
LinkedIn was having momentary difficulties.
I thought they just showed me the door and didn't even tell me. All right. Here we go.
Am I supposed to be? If we had a Five Finger Death Punch on there, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. We like doing stuff like that, and then one of the social networks, we won't say which none, said, no, you can't do that anymore. That's somebody else's music. You're not allowed to use it. So we can't do that anymore.
Well,
so
Facebook said we can't. I say we can't do Facebook, but whatever.
All right. Well, be that as it may, that our friend Mark Youngerman, fantastic and talented musician, created this little rollick for us, and so I thought I'd give it out today. And we did it with minimal hiccups. Never mind the fact that we're like 5 minutes late, but we won't worry about that. Well, we are back for another Bow Tie Up Live. I am Lee Rowley from Lee Rowley Copy Branding and Copy Branding You, and the guy over here murdering the keyboard is.
I am pointing to Lee, but thank you, Lee. I'm just going to grab that intro over and say hello. My name is Alex McDowell. I am the owner and founder of A3 Innovation and also partner at Real Impact Solution, where we build robots to help you do things on computers. Whoop, whoop. But that's not important. The most important thing is that we are joined by an absolutely tremendous guest, and that is none other than Scott Burgess. Scott, take it away, my friend. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what brought you to the show today as we remove that banner and hand the floor over to you.
Oops. Nice. Hey, guys. So you guys are awesome. I love in the spirit of switching things up and making it atypical. I'm all about that all day, all night. So thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. So a little bit about me. So I've been in the healthcare business for I forget the amount of years, but somewhere between 16 and 18 years, somewhere in that range. I've built some of the best operating rooms, intensive care units. I'm a hospital consultant where we go in and we design all these $1 million lab spaces, etc. And there's a lot that goes to that. I got frustrated a little while ago with kind of like that overlap all the time. So we've perfected that as far as how we go in there and what the approach is. So we really have jumped in, and if you go on some of my posts on LinkedIn, I've posted a slew of pictures of what it looks like and what it doesn't look like as far as good output. But on top of that, we run a Healthcare 360 podcast, and it's I have a quick shout out to Entropy Marketing. They had voted us and selected us as one of the top medical podcasts that's out there, which is just unbelievable. And I first learned about you guys. I saw you guys on a few of the LinkedIn Lives. And then one of my friends, Heather Hawka, who you had on, we help each other out. And I saw her on there. No, they got to check these guys out. I love the show, man. It's just different. It's original. And I use the word atypical a lot because that's what I'm all about, doing things differently, stir things up, being disruptive, etc.
I say absolutely to that. I love Lee puns. But seriously, thank you, Scott. And shout out to Heather. Heather, it was awesome to have you on the show. So thank you very much for being on the show. We're excited to have you back on again and for having Scott join us today. And I'm very, very excited. Now, Scott, you said that you actually go in and you build those operating rooms within the hospitals. Where did that come from? Like, what got you passionate about that and wanting to make that difference? And how did you get started?
So when we first started, well, I shouldn't say I go in there and I actually build it. I actually work alongside the architects and the engineers and the planners and the hospital administrators. So I'm actually one piece to an overall puzzle that goes about that. So when we go in and we consult, we go in and we talk about, we work with the surgeons, physicians, and everyone who's really entangled in that development. So you would think that most people inside of a hospital know exactly what they want. It's actually the reverse of that, because they're so busy and they're so taxed. Our best and brightest in healthcare, if you will, they have all these other, again, tasks they need to do. I don't want to get into the minutiae of it all, but where they're relying on the consultants and the experts to be able to help them and guide them. We have to kind of, just like you guys, extract information from me. We have to do it from them. So it's really just open dialogue and open communication at the end of the day. But the problem is that, stop the show and let's say,
yes. So on the topic of open dialogue and open communication, we get to start off doing one of my very favorite things this time, to stop the show and say hello to a couple of our wonderful audience members joining us today. And dropping in with the first comment is Matthew Perkins saying, beautiful new intro. Thank you, Matthew. Hopefully you are having a wonderful day today, my friend. It's great to see you on the show. I hope you get to hang out with us for a while. Matthew's awesome, doing some great things out with Infinity Streamers, so make sure to connect with them. Samantha Childress saying, loving the mosh pit. And Sam, thanks for being on the show yesterday, actually, another BowtieUP Live veteran, and my wonderful wife. So shout out to Sam. Thanks for liking the mosh pit. Matthew also says 20 seconds of using music without licensing fees. So I'm thinking we just do 20-second mashups. We'll find a way to do it. Yeah. Kevin McDowell jumping in saying, what in the wide world of sports is going on here? That's an excellent question, Kevin. Honestly, I have no idea. So your guess is as good as mine. Just kidding. So we got in trouble at Facebook. We got our hands smacked for doing our intro and outro music. So we had to pivot a little bit. And we did some original music by none other than Mark Youngerman. You can check him out on YouTube for the intro. So, hey, Kevin, how's it going? Hope you're having a wonderful rest of the day and a current day. And as I always say, Kevin, you know what's coming. It's my favorite McDowell other than family. Because get it, I'm McDowell too. I'm hilarious. And then we have Elijah jumping in, a student at Capital University. What's up? What's up, Buttercup? I didn't really have anything there, but Elijah, hoping you're having a wonderful day today. Hello, welcome to the show. We are joined by Scott down here, who is telling us a little bit about Healthcare 360 and what they do for hospitals, which is building the things themselves, right? Building the rooms that go into them and working with that staff. And just talking maybe about, well, never mind. I had stopped you in the middle of what you were saying. I'll give the floor back to you, Scott, and you can continue on your merry way. Yeah.
So again, in short, we'll go in. So imagine, what's the best way of putting it? Imagine you're in your master bedroom or your kitchen, right? And you're like, I need a new kitchen, or I need a new master bedroom or master bath. Well, we'll go in there and we'll use different tools and we'll give recommendations based on what the equipment's going to go in. And then we'll rip everything out. And then we'll say, this is what it's going to look like before you do that. And we put them through a process to make sure that at the end of the day, they like everything that they've selected and that they've asked for. And then we're capturing everything. And once we do that, that's it. We knock everything down. And again, with the planners and architects and engineers and everyone, we build these amazing labs. And they go up, and it's at the end of the day, they're anywhere between $2.5 to $4 million per space. And we're saving people's lives, man. At the end of the day, we're saving people's lives, which is great.
And that is absolutely incredible. So I just have to ask, with everything going on, the COVID pandemic, have you been able to, or is what part of what you do also like any expansions with the hospitals, like pushing out their capacity and building onto that? Or is it mostly, remodeling? Has the COVID pandemic changed at all and made you pivot within your business and some of the things that you were doing actively, or things you were pursuing, or what's the overall impact / effect been?
So far, let me answer a couple different ways. So one, yes, it's renovations, and it's also a new build out. So if the hospital is building a new tower, so I'm down here in South Florida, and I had worked for one company for a pretty long time. I like to keep companies' names out of it, but and when I first started, I started off with a lower market share, and then I went to a very high market share because I was the guy building up all the rooms. So a lot of the hospitals, they say, hey, just call Scott, he'll take care of it. And we go in and we do the whole thing. So brand new towers going up, we'll take care of it. So that could be a $400 million project, or if we're doing a small renovation project, it could be, again, like $2.5 million or even $150,000. All depends on what they're looking to do. Going to the COVID question, in certain parts of the market space, and you can find this all over the news, but in certain parts of the market space, it's blown up. So ventilators, monitoring, IV, disposable, patient beds has gone through the roof and it's spiked. Although I have a friend on the Tampa side of the state who told me that the state of Florida purchased somewhere close to like $3 million to distribute, and they had to cancel about half the order because there was just no need for that anymore, because some of the fluctuations and the spikes didn't quite happen the way they were. So COVID's really kind of twisted things up a lot because people were in preparation mode to make sure that they were prepared to make sure that they can help people. But at the same time, on the capital construction side, if it was not already ongoing, not that it stopped, but it froze. It just needs to thaw out. And that's the best analogy I can give it at the moment. So there's absolutely no way. And one of my predictions, I'll give you one of my predictions. I was talking to a friend of mine, very smart guy. And if you look at Japan, for example, Japan has about half the dense population that we do in the States, but they have double the amount of institutions as far as healthcare facilities. So they have just about 9,000 facilities to our 5,600, and they have about half of our population. So I think after this, once the dust settles, and the dust will settle, that there is going to be a major significant boom, because there was a major eye-opening saying that we just weren't prepared. We just weren't, and we didn't believe half the shit that was going on, to be frank. So, you know what I mean? So that's really what's going on. And then on the other side of what I do, which is really becoming more and more of a passion every day, is we open up Healthcare 360. We started it, man, when we were talking before, Lee, when we were exchanging back and forth, I knew zero about media, zero. And so I taught myself at least 12 software platforms, built an entire studio, built it but with my hands for the most part, figured it all out, and then built these little contraptions. And when you look at some of the, now again, nothing's perfect, but if you looked at some of the video content that's putting out, that little device that I showed you is what's doing all that. So I figured out a lot of stuff pretty quick. So, and the goal there on Healthcare 360 is this. Anyone who's been involved with healthcare or has needed healthcare or had a disease or anything else like that, it's a really messy topic. There's a lot of different avenues. So my goal is, had people known there were better options to exhaust and explore before they made the final choice, at least they can consider them. And that's the topic where I really lean on, and the question I ask the most. That's actually how I met Heather. I follow people, I follow what they're talking about and what they're doing. And at the same time, I saw Heather, and she was talking about cosmetics. And I said, you know something? There's a topic there, and here's why. Because there are a lot of people who are going out getting cosmetic-based surgeries and procedures, and there's a lot of risk there. Let's talk about that, especially for the women. I'm a father of 4 daughters. I want to make sure that not just for my own selfish needs, for my family, but the people that I love can hear that story and hear where I'm leading them with. And Heather was unbelievable. I mean, she was talking about, for example, like the mommy makeovers. And in this country and in Canada, it's somewhere like $16,000 or above for one procedure. So what a lot of women, So what a lot of women, and that's cash out of pocket. Sure. So cash in hand procedures. What a lot of women do is they exhaust the option of going on what they call these cosmetic getaways, all-inclusive resorts, surgeries, everything else for sub $5,000. So either Canada or the US is that inflated, or something's wrong on the other side. And through that podcast, we expose all that. And I have a lot of friends who listen to that and just was like, we never knew. And that's the point of the podcast, is going out there. And so when I talk about atypical topic points, I'm talking about between the weeds, between the cracks, underneath it all, and getting at the root cause of things, because that's the stuff that makes people go batshit crazy.
Yeah. And that's the stuff that's important for people to know. because the lack of information, one of the biggest gripes that I have against the internet, and I'm huge into technology. I can build a ton of things with my hands, but none of them are physical. So one of the biggest gripes I have about the internet is how easy it is to find things, right? How easy it is to find information, and that silos information into highly SEO optimized search queries that you're just getting fed the same information from every site, and you can't really learn anything new and insightful and deep and knowledge driven and education driven. Then all you get is just these things that are in essence like clickbait, you know? And so you don't get the information that you need, and you end up walking into a really, really bad decision because of these relatively deceptive practices. So I love what you're doing, man.
I get into it too, because really, everyone who I'm aligned with loves helping people. We just love going out and helping people, because there are a lot, and I don't want to black market sales consultants or consultants, but some people just go out there and say, well, it wasn't my decision and they made their own bet. And that's not the case. If you're touching something that has that massive of a ripple effect, you better care, because if you don't, something bad's going to happen from it. And that's just the truth of the matter. Everything
that you do is important to someone. And if what you do, you don't put that same level of importance in, the outcome's going to show it. And it's that sloppiness in essence that it is, and that lack of passion that just it sinks ships, you know, because and especially anyone in a consultant position, you know, we're so critical in any project, because we bring that knowledge, we bring that expertise. And if we're not putting that passion into it, we're not doing that research, and we're not doing a good job of what our job is, then it leads to some very, very bad things. And I love that you're out there with a mission to help people. And I've been very, very fortunate to be surrounded by some absolutely incredible people who have a very similar mission. And we have them on the show a lot. So even just 2 days ago, we had Jacqueline Way, and she has a whole campaign around 365 Give as a nonprofit organization. Yesterday was the Do One Give Day, where we all just went and did something non-monetary, but was nice for somebody else, to make them feel a little bit better, to give them some sort of positive impact in their lives. And the things like that are just so important right now, especially in lifting people up and not putting them down, and empowering people with knowledge and showing that deep level of passion, care, and understanding. So I'm glad that you can make the world a little bit better of a place like that. And healthcare is so important to so many of us. One of the things we did
was that we just released this week. And what we had done, we made theme weeks now out of Healthcare 360. So this week is Sexual Health Week. Yay. And a lot of people are home. They're all buttoned up, and we got a lot of requests for it. So the podcast that we had, and some of it was detailed, you know, and it's for an adult audience. But what we did was we edited it down, because one of the posts that I put up was about pornography this week. And there are a lot of people who engage in pornography, good, bad, or indifferent. I'll leave that for the adults of the room. But if people are not talking to their kids about it, and just think about this. So if my daughters saw pornography, and according to the stats, 90% of kids are looking at pornography by age 11, or they've heard something by age 11. It's crazy stats, right? So one of the most compelling videos I've ever seen, you have this woman who's a good-looking woman in a bra, and she's all tattooed up and everything else. She goes, "Your kid's watching porn." Boom. And I'm like, whatever. She's like, "You better talk to them about porn before I do." And it stops. And I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
So we put together a quick little video to explain that. And what we did to supplement the podcast is we ripped down the first podcast that had details that are not suitable for kids, and we made a kid version of it. So if parents are having a hard time having that discussion, because it can be uncomfortable, right? Now they can, you know something, let's listen to this together in an open, safe environment and talk about it. And the people that we had in the show that contributed were amazing people.
And Scott, I want to come right back to that, because as a parent myself, first-time parent, I have a 10-month-old son who's the greatest thing in the world. I'm stepping into this world of parenting, and I'm starting to meet other parents. And it seems like a lot of the problems that my parents had with me, other parents are having with their kids. And you know, bringing that as a resource and highlighting that would be wonderful. So I'll ask you for like a link that we can share in the comments so that our audience can go back and make sure to get more information there. But you guys know what time it is. It's time to stop the show and say hello. We have comments coming through on our Facebook from Jeff Adams with a clapping emoji. Hey, Jeff, how's it going? Hope you're having a wonderful day today, my friend. And then also we have Miss Hannah Catus, who will actually be our BowtieUP Live guest tomorrow. So shout out to Hannah for being willing to take that on. And I know that even Scott can tell you is not easy to go live. So thanks for taking that step and for agreeing to do it, stepping out of your comfort zone. It's huge. We're all proud of you. Thanks for viewing. Hope you're having an awesome day. So stepping back a minute to your regularly scheduled interruption before me, Scott, you talked about these resources. Where can parents go to find a lot of these resources? Do you have a website where they all are? Is it all on the podcast, or where can we go to get more information?
So I'll leave the links that I put down within my post in here as well. But what I usually like to do is I like to call and ask for, if you can ask for 5 to 10 minutes of a consultant's time. Okay, so that's what I did. So I called, again, I followed some people, was reading their content, was following, making sure it was legitimate. And I was going to the websites and saying, okay, is this good, is this bad, is this indifferent, is it just fluff, right? Mm-hmm. I found them out, and I found Jocelyn Rodriguez Silva. She's out in California. Again, very atypical approach. And we hooked up and started talking, and we had an unbelievable synergy at first. So we started talking about that, and I said, hey, what about? And she was so open to talk about these things. And I'm not relying on the internet because it's the internet. Unless it's a peer-reviewed study or something like that, I'm very skeptical. I'm like, where's that information coming from? But if you're talking to someone who's in practice every day, those are the people you got to talk to. So I'm not going to give anyone the easy way out, saying, well, here's some links and go do it, because that's a side bank and people won't do it. Go reach out to a few people where you can go ask them some legitimate questions, get some feedback, be respectful of their time, and go make a connection, man, and learn something new about somebody.
And that's great advice. You guys heard it here first. You got to go out and ask for that advice. You got to seek out those people and really take that initiative and take those steps to become better educated as parents. And I realized my camera was about to die, and I don't want to show everybody the lovely battery exhausted icon that will replace my picture. So if you're a parent, you're out there on LinkedIn, you don't really interact a lot, you're not really well engaged with your audience, how would you advise approaching some of these more sensitive topics, and where to go and how to seek those people out that are going to be able to give them that good sound advice?
That's deep, man. I would say they got to work on themselves first before more than anything else. It's a tough conversation. I'll give you an example of this. So my daughters, I have a 15-year-old, 13-year-old twins, and 11-year-old, and they came back, and we started figuring out what was going on in their middle schools and their high school. So I have freshmen in high school, 2 7th graders, and a 5th grader. And they're all coming back, and they're all kind of saying the same thing. Now, I live in Boca Raton, Florida, and they're saying there's a lot of pressure for sexual identity. And I looked at them, I'm like, what? Huh? At the time, they were 14, 12, and 10. I'm like, what the hell do you mean sexual identity? What does that, I just couldn't get my head wrapped around it. And I started learning these new terms, and I was asking them, I'm like, what is that? What's that one? What does that mean? And I was literally like asking Siri or Google, like, what are these things? I had no idea. So the first thing I would do is just listen, let the kids ask the questions, because I learned so much. And so when I went into it and I dove into it a little bit, and I was like, oh, okay. And then I'd say, well, why is that important to you? And I took the lower position and raised them up, so they felt empowered to ask the questions. And it was also both my wife, Michelle, and I were sitting down having that discussion. Because what happens a lot with female versus male, it's like the dad and the son and the mom and the daughter. That's completely wrong. Can you imagine me as the father with 4 daughters, and I couldn't ask my daughters about like their sexual health and what they think of and things about stuff like that? So I try to bring it up and talk about it, and I just try to be open as much as I can. So go back to the question is, you got to, like, up here, for most parents, you got to clear that out first to make sure you're comfortable with that topic. And then once you're comfortable with that topic, then you can move to your kids. Because if you're not comfortable, you're going to screw it up.
So how did you become comfortable with that topic? Because that's something that a lot of parents struggle with. And I'm no authority on parents, but just talking from going through school and going through these high schools. I mean, it's not like I'm just out of high school. I've got a couple of years out. Thank you. But these are really difficult conversations to have. These are really difficult conversations for people who are not used to being open, not used to being honest, and honestly, not used to having a transparent conversation with their kids, and if you're a parent that has not done that before, how would you, Scott, advise them to even get into that mindset and to be able to work on themselves to get there? Because that's something that, it's important. That these things are important to your kids, but you don't know how to talk about it. Right. So how could you advise someone to approach that?
If they can't find it in themselves to bring it out, I would say go speak to someone first and find out what it is, because most people have a fear or just kind of trepidation at the ground level, and we have to kind of figure out what it is that they're afraid of. So I'm not a therapist. We had Jason Eric Ross on the show. He's a certified psychotherapist. I was fortunate enough, he lives here in Boca Raton, Florida. He came over and he talked about shame and talked about different attributes that roll into that as well. So if you can't find it and muster up that courage, then go talk to someone for 15 minutes. Go connect with someone and say, hey, I'm having a hard time talking about it. Or go ask some simple advice from a friend and say, hey, have you ever had this discussion before? Or go to a forum and ask, how do you do this? How do you do this? I go back to the example of when I started up the media company and the podcast. I knew zero. I knew nothing. And now I got a full-blown studio and the whole 9 yards, and I love doing it all the time. So if you don't ask, you don't learn. If you don't learn, you don't grow. And if you don't grow, everyone loses, right?
Yeah. I always say, if you're not going to grow, then you're going to go. Yeah. Because there's no room for that. You've got to consistently be working on yourself.
Yeah. So I would say, again, just go ask some questions. That's all.
Before we leave this topic, you brought up the word shame, and that's something that I was listening to your podcast with Jocelyn this morning, and something important that came up was the differentiation, the distinction between guilt and shame.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's important. I wonder if you can expand a little bit about that on here, because it's not something that most people really think of, but it's critically important in terms of understanding your health, both emotionally and physically.
Yeah. So I'm going to lean on shame a little bit. So there's a lot of stipulations there, and I'm sorry for all the people who are out there that are religious. I grew up Catholic. I grew up a Christian, and that's okay. So a lot of the undertones of religions, not just Christianity, but religions in general, have, you out of the gate, you're not good enough because God is God, and then there's Jesus Christ, and then there's us, right? And we're made in that presence. So out of the gate, we're not good enough. And if you go back and you start diving into that a little bit, then all of a sudden that mindset automatically is you're not good enough. But you're comparing yourself to God, and we're in his image or her image, or however you want to consider that, right? So shame, when it comes down to, is, are you good enough? Are you not good enough? In that respect. But on the other side, let's say something happens. Let's say Lee, Alex and yourself picked on me when I was in school, right? And all of a sudden I was doing something, you were teasing me for it. Well, what I was doing wasn't wrong, but in your eyes and in my mind's eye, you made me believe that was wrong. Mm-hmm. You're fearful now, and that's where that shame comes in. So next time you think about it, so when people talk about bullying and things of that nature, that's the two sides of the spectrum of where shame comes from. Nothing's wrong with anyone, and this is one example of it. So in quick, high-level stuff, that's where it came from. The reason why I brought up the religion part, because Jocelyn talked about that, because she was a Catholic, born and raised as well, sure. And that's where the genesis from her came from. When I was talking with Jason Eric Ross, it was around the same mindset on what you're doing wasn't wrong. If someone made you believe it was wrong, so that mindset was ingrained in, and it's not, and that's okay. But and then when you go back in, and that's where some of the roadblocks, man, are like some adults and some people, right? Is they have this perception, and their imagination is now lost, and they can't envision, and they keep living in the past. And I tell my girls all the time, I'm like, look, if this is neutral and this is forward and the other way is reverse, As soon as you go back here, you stopped. Period. Done. So you have to start here at a minimum. And even that's not progress to be able to move forward. So I try to just ingrain that. And as soon as you hear those words, because someone's actually training me. And so if I say, oh man, I tried doing that, and then I come back and I go, wait a minute, the word tried. So the word try is a negative word, realistically. Like you tried to do something, which means you already failed.
Mm-hmm.
Versus, I'm going to get it done.
Do or do not. There is no try. As Yoda would say.
Yeah.
Right? So, and then on the guilt side, guilt is not too far away from shame. Black versus white, etc. As far as the words and how they intersect. But it's, if you do something, a good friend of mine told me this a long time ago. Oh, we lost Alex. Told me this a long time ago that what did your conscience tell you,
mm-hmm.
right? And that's where the guilt comes in. So if you know you're going to do something wrong, what does your conscience tell you? Where's it going? How's it? How you interacting with yourself? So
interesting. I heard a couple of months ago, and it's really resonated with me. Was that guilt was also a proxy for doing something productive?
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say guilt, but I would say failure. The more you fail, the pain is the gain, as the rhyme goes. But the more you fail, it's that learning opportunity, really, of where you can take things and where you can go with it. So it's a lot of different topic points there. I love that stuff. I mean, it's really engaging stuff.
Yeah.
I yelled at myself a lot when I work out or if I'm doing different things. What's up, dude? You back?
Hey, how's it going?
Good. But I have on my mirror in my garage that we have a little workout rack for my daughters for sports and things like that. I use it as well, but I have on there just my focus points on both sides. I have my daughter's names. I have my wife's name. I have a big heart in the middle. And I have 3 things that I'm grateful for that day. And I have big word focus on top to keep myself in line.
Very
Focus
cool.
is really hard right now, especially with us all working from home. I know that was a major transition, and that a lot of people have talked about how difficult it is to focus, to multitask, to deal with all of the interruptions throughout the day, especially those of us with kids and the kids too. I mean, I think the kids are really getting it the worst right now, just because they how are you going to focus when you can't go to school anymore? You're getting cabin fever and you were super excited for summer break, spring break, and all these things. But now it's a never ending summer and you still have schoolwork and you can't go out and see your friends. So your entire life is actually flipped upside down, not just the typical teenage drama flipped upside down. Yep. So how have you, Scott, as a parent of 4 daughters, how have you coped with that? How have you dealt with that? And how have you helped them remain focused and keep that same mentality and that same mindset?
So one of the things that I had done, and it's not that I mastered it at all, but so for example, we have a family calendar. This is the one thing that I do, and we share calendars openly. So everything, if I have an email through my consulting side of my life, I forward all those emails to my Gmail account so my family can see my schedule for the day. That's the first thing. So I have the studio, I have my computer set aside, and no one knocks on the door outside of good morning to get my morning kiss. I got to get my morning kiss. And I see my girls. But they see my calendar during the day. We see everything. Everything is very open and very transparent. When I start my day, first thing I do is I wake up, I go to the bathroom, I go meditate. I give me my first hour before I give the rest of myself to the world. So everything runs on a calendar for me, on a schedule, and I have the monitor behind me that you see. The other monitor is right in front of me that you can't see, which is actually the monitor I'm looking at you on. And I have one calendar behind me, what I call a couple of other open tabs I need to kind of click throughout the day. And then I have some other windows that are open in front of me, the things that I need to get more immediately done. The biggest thing is, and I learned this from Cheryl Sanders, if I'm not forgetting her name, she's the COO of Facebook, but I write everything down the night before. No matter before I end my day, my next day is 90% done. I leave 10% open for pop-ups, and I go about it. And then my wife stays at home. She doesn't. Our kids are young, and they all need help in school. So she's in charge of dealing with the virtual school. And the other thing is, again, with her is open communication. Hey, how are you feeling today? What's going on? My youngest daughter, Allie, she's just an atypical kid. This kid could eat your young. She's amazing. She just thinks really, really differently. But she takes a lot of time on the school side of things. So we make sure that she has a lot of time with my wife, Michelle, which is great. But we make sure that calendar is done the night before. So when I wake up in the morning, I'm not like, what do I got to do today? And then all of a sudden you're trying to pull things together and you're all over the map and et cetera, et cetera. At a high level, of course. That's how what's going on.
And that's always really beneficial to even have a plan to begin with. Yeah. Looking at people like Lee and myself who oftentimes fail to do so.
Look at this show, you crazy. I was making comments before saying, man, you guys got to teach me some of that stuff for my life. It's great.
Yeah, we've got like the live section. We're really good at doing things on repeat, but writing those down into specific measurable steps is always lost in translation. Mm-hmm. Which is part of that. And it's funny because as in the robotic process automation world, it's all about process documentation and then making sure that you have everything identified. It's all set up. It's all scalable so that you can take anything out of it and put anything into it. And then in my personal life, I'm like, oh yeah, I definitely have everything A-okay. Not. So it's something that we all work on.
The balance, man. Like the balance, that work-life balance is the thing. This guy I used to run with, his name was Mike Bender. When I first got into the healthcare business, I asked him that same question. He had 2 young boys at the time. Now they both graduated college. They're both professionals. They're doing well. And I never forget this lesson. But actually, I told my oldest daughter the other day because I noticed a few things I'll talk about. But he came back and I said, hey, how do you keep your family life and work life in balance? He goes, I include them. And so you tell them everything about it? He goes, yeah, I include them. So if you have a bad deal, if you have a great deal, your successes, your wins, you talk about it openly with all of them so you can all kind of know where you are. Because if you have a shitty day or if you have a great day, don't you think they deserve to know?
Right.
So we talk about that stuff, not all the time, but we talk about this stuff. Hey, where were you? Like I remember my wife asked me yesterday, said, hey, how was everything going? I said, I finished relatively early. We had some other things we had to do online. Uneventful. But it was there, we got everything done. That was it. So that's the one thing. But the one thing I noticed the other day, my 15-year-old, she woke up out of bed, virtual school, and she checked in. She was in bed. And versus disrupting her, I said, okay. So when she came downstairs later on in the day, I saw her, I said, look, you were to wake up and take a shower and prepare like you were leaving the house. Period. There's no discussion there. That is what you're going to do. You need to keep your mind where your mind knows it's at, because as soon as you start differing from that, then it's going to get hard to get back in the end, those routines and those things that you need to know. And I'm very much a fan of school that works for people, not the education system that we know and that we all grew up in. If there's a different form of education, do it. Who cares? So as long as we learn it, that's all that matters at the end of the day. But the regimen of preparing yourself and mentally preparing and getting yourself in position to be in, that's where it's at for me. I'm like, so I wake up every morning. Again, I don't work out every morning. I work out 4, sometimes 5 times a week, but I'm meditating first thing, and then I do my workout, and then I roll into everything else. And that's it. And the hardest thing to do is to put your sneakers on, dude. That's all it is. You put your sneakers on, you can do everything else.
Yep. And that's what BowtieUP is all about.
That's right.
Making, getting that bow tie on, getting your sneakers on, throwing on a t-shirt if you're me, and your headphones, and getting on for the day. So if you can do that, and treating it the same definitely helps. Now, Scott, as somebody with multiple businesses like yourself, how do you manage both businesses and the personal life during the day and keep that routine going? Because that's got to be a struggle, and that's got to be a challenge, especially when you're working with engineers, with architects. And I can imagine that there are different time zones that you have to take into account. So how have you found it best to really maintain that without going absolutely bananas?
I enjoy what I do, man. I enjoy the grind. It's a very Gary V type of. I lost you two real quick, or something happened there. You guys still there? Oh,
Yeah, we're still here. We were giving you single screen so that we could hear what you were having to say and highlight you to the audience. But I'll hang here and chill out with you, man. Give you that reassuring smile.
So going back, I segment everything out is what I do. So during the day, in the regular working hours, the podcast stuff I do all after hours, and the weekend doing my own personal time. But on both sides, I really enjoy what I do. I make a difference in people's lives. I know I do. I don't need someone to tell me that. So I have buckets, just like you do with your finances. You have buckets, and that's how I handle my day. That's it. It's pretty simple.
Yeah. So really all it is passion makes a difference. I mean, when you love what you do, nothing ever feels like work. Right. And that's going to set you so far apart. And now we're out of order. So 2 seconds.
Yeah, sure.
There we go. And now we're back in order. Thankfully, I've screwed that up enough times that we can get that back really quickly for the audience.
Quick. You guys are impressive. It's really quick.
And for those of you who are just joining us, welcome to BowtieUP Live. We are joined today by Scott Burgess of Healthcare 360, and we are talking a little bit about what he does. We're talking about tips for parents in communicating with your kids. We're talking about ways to be productive during your day. I mean, we've got a great episode, so if you're just joining us, make sure to catch the replay on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, or whatever platform you consume your media on. It is 5:06, which means we have about 10 minutes before we move to final thoughts. There's another one of my favorite parts of the show where you get 30 seconds, a minute and a half, or however long you want to say what's on your mind and to leave the audience with that lasting impression. So, Lee, what do we have on the agenda for the After 5 chat?
Oh, wow. So, well, first of all, I want to make sure we get to this because I'm curious myself as to what the heck's going on. Scott said something about giving away T-shirts.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, okay, you know what? Instead of, doing the responsible thing and asking the details, I'm like, heck, let's just let him spill them on the show.
Sure. So appreciate you guys having me on. So for one of you guests that I'll let you pick how do you want to select them, but give me the shirt size and the address we need to send it to. We'll give them a free Healthcare 360 t-shirt. Our compliments to you for letting us come on your show. We really appreciate that, and we're very grateful at the same time.
No, well, thank you. Thanks for being here. I mean, this is literally what we do it for. I mean, this whole show is about uplifting, empowering entrepreneurs, regular individuals, people of all walks of life to be their best self. And the way that they can be their best self are by people like you, Scott, giving them those tools that they need to have those conversations with their kids, or whatever help we're able to provide. So thank you for making the time for us and for the t-shirt giveaway. Now, Lee, do we have the Ducket Bucket today?
We do have the Ducket Bucket.
We do have the Ducket Bucket. Okay, guys. So here's what we're gonna do.
Excuse me. I know that was completely unprofessional, but we have the unbranded Ducket Bucket.
The Ducket Bucket. So
ducks that Carla and I threw in there yesterday, and
it is a literal bucket of ducks that we call the Ducket Bucket.
In case you missed that episode, we throughout the episode, Carla and I threw ducks. We got a bunch of these little things in the bucket, and we missed most of them. But we just like, okay, we threw it, it counted, and then we said whoever guessed the correct number, we would give a prize to, which was going to be the jukebox, and then Facebook said, no, you can't do that. So this just works out. We're going to do a t-shirt instead. We have
a Ducket Bucket. In this Ducket Bucket are a certain amount of ducks. Some of them were missed, and some are on the floor, which I'm sure Lee had to step over on his way to his studio. Some of them are in the Ducket Bucket. So I want you, the fine audience members, to drop comments of how many ducks you think are in the Ducket Bucket. And whoever is the first person to get it right, after Lee counts them, of course, is going to win a Healthcare 360 t-shirt, courtesy of Scott. Thank you, Scott, for the t-shirt giveaway.
Right there, dude. That's awesome.
All right. Well,
and thank you for providing the ducks, Lee. Make sure you count those ducks.
I have the ducks are all accounted for. I have the ducks in a row.
Oh. Yes, we have our ducks in a row, guys. This is so exciting.
Where is it? Where is it? I gotta get myself a Yosemite Sam for that one.
Yes.
Ow! My biscuits are burning. Fire in the hatch.
All right, let's get back to it.
I definitely got to learn some of those tricks. That's fun.
A certain. I'm trying to figure out a cool rhyme. Guess the Ducks win a T-shirt. Whatever.
All right. Well, yeah. We can't rhyme on the fly. You're not going to be Slim Shady. I'm sorry.
Oh, I got to be like a little Slim Shady yesterday on one of Sydney's posts.
Yeah.
Sydney Jones. Shout out to Sydney Jones and Scott. I highly recommend that you connect with Sydney because he's another change maker. He has a lot of initiatives that he's working on and just trying to empower the youth and really inspire and uplift people. So he's a wonderful connect. Always shares great content. But Sydney had a post about, will the real leaders, now is the time to stand up. So my clever self was like, well, will the real change leaders please stand up?
Stand up.
I repeat, the real change leaders, please stand up.
You never know what's going to come up on this show, you know?
You really do not.
I love it.
It's completely random. And I just before I throw this, I'm sorry. I talked to a new connection and fantastic individual named Chad Borkin, and he knows tons of musicians who would love to be on our show. So we're going to add that element to it going forward. We're going to be having live musical performances on the freaking show.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was completely random. I just thought I'd throw that in there.
Ask Dad if he has any good DJs, because I like a good DJ riff in the beginning of my podcast, man. I'd love to promote someone. That'd be great.
Oh, I know a DJ.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can totally. I'll reach out to him. That's a wonderful idea.
We're all about hooking people up. Yeah, that's.
Hey, Lee, you want to do a quick ducket bucket count? Bucket check, I guess, because you already know how many ducks. We have a couple of guesses coming in here. Matthew Perkins, 43.
Okay.
No. Hannah Katsus, 15.
Also,
Adam, 26.
You are the current leader.
Closest. Okay. Also, stop the show. Say hello to Adam. Adam, thank you for joining us, and thank you for all of your comments. Really appreciate it. And I hope you're having a wonderful day today. See if we have any more Ducket Bucket guests. Remember, Max, we'll give you 2 guesses. You guys got 2. So, Matthew, Hannah, Adam, calling you guys out. You got one more guess on the Ducket Bucket. Keep in mind that Adam's guess of 26 was the closest. So, no duplicate guesses. We know those are always wrong. If you want to waste your second guess, that's on you. But guess the Ducket Buckets, win the challenge, get a T-shirt, and bow tie up.
Yep.
Yay.
We got to get that going, too. What merch do you guys want to see? Are we doing?
I want color changing mugs.
You want color changing mugs? Okay.
Yeah, we're updating our merch page right now. We're getting the T-shirts up there and hats and all that kind of stuff. So the problem is COVID. We were trying to get that all up and get the images done, and we didn't have the actual product yet. So a lot of it is we have some, but not all of them, and we couldn't get it all uploaded where we had to get it within Adobe and then rip out the back, and you know how to do the whole media thing in the back. So you had the clear, transparent PNG files and all that stuff. So,
have you ever heard of WebPs? Hashtag Tech Tip Thursday. There's a new type of image called WebP. It was developed by Google, and what makes it special is that we all know the types of images, JPEGs and PNGs. Difference being a PNG has a alpha layer, which has transparency. Well, WebP is a smaller file size than a PNG that still allows transparency in your layers. So you can use a WebP image to serve your images faster and in a more compressed nature than a PNG.
How's the resolution? Are they good? Same quality?
Yeah, same quality. You can literally get the same quality out of a WebP. And with Adobe, there's actually a plugin to Photoshop that you can download, and because it was developed by Google, that will allow you to convert the images to WebP. And that's what I do for a lot of my websites that we develop. And now sometimes if you're using a website builder, calling out all of you Wix guys out there, you're not going to be able to see the WebPs while you're building unless, I'm sorry, Scott.
Yeah, I know. We're working on learning WordPress. I told you we're working on.
No, that's a step in the wrong direction.
No, WordPress. What do you recommend?
Not WordPress. WordPress, well, it depends on if you need static or dynamic. Really, I always recommend building it on a Gatsby framework and working with a developer to do so. I've been working with a great platform called Webflow. And that it's more of a developer and designer centric building tool. So WordPress tries to make you think that everything's going to be simple, but WordPress layers plugins on top of each other. So if you want to have additional functionality on a WordPress site, like a banner at the top of your page, for example, that's a whole plugin with its whole other set of code that it has to run and load for that banner to display, which increases the load time and makes WordPress files and WordPress sites a lot slower. So working with something, I love Webflow, because what I do is I'll build it in Webflow, and they have their own hosting service, but as a tech guy, I don't like that. So I host it on either GCP, Google Cloud Platform, or AWS. If you're on AWS, without getting too techie, use an S3 bucket with a CDN. That's a cloud distribution network that improves load time. If you're on GCP, you can just use cloud storage. And then on the domain side, GCP, you only have to update CNAME records, whereas AWS, you have to update your name servers and your CNAME records.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, lots of weird tech stuff. It's just what I do in my spare time.
I already learned something. I'm going to Webflow and check it out.
Yeah, it definitely should. I mean, they have an awesome trial that you can do. I think you can only build like one page in the trial. But then like the design tools, you can do everything that you would do normally in development with your HTML and CSS, and you can export it semantically, which is really nice. And if you really want to, you can host on there, and you can host e-com. You can build a CMS with it, and it automatically will provision those databases for you. And they use AWS for their architecture. So
nice. So let me ask you guys a question. In your respective fields of what you do for work, what are you finding that this whole COVID thing had set you back or set you forward?
COVID has me exhausted. I am completely overwhelmed right now, to be transparent around it. I've got 2 different tech companies, and both of them were just way too much work and not enough developers. Because what COVID has done is taken a lot of these clients who before wouldn't want to lean as heavily on their internet presence as a primary source of revenue, and they're realizing that, oh crap, I have to make money off of my website now. I have to find a way to advertise online now. So we're getting a lot of requests about that, how to implement e-commerce, what are the best ways, who are the best payment processors to use. Is my website really, like, my website wasn't getting any traffic, and now is the time that they want it to have a bunch of traffic. And so it's a lot of that stuff, updating the clients that we do have, the existing clients that we do have. They all needed us to add banners to their website saying they were closed or not. And a lot of them just refactoring, making sure that everything was tip top. They're leaning a lot more on analytics too, to really understand customer behavior. Because we're seeing, there was one client in particular, and I'm not going to name names, but they have this huge SEO opportunity because of COVID, centered around the term uncertainty as a search term has gone up exponentially in the last like 30, 45 days. So just identifying those trends and those patterns to allow people to get better traffic.
Right. Wow.
Yeah, so completely overwhelmed. And that's just for one side of the tech house. And the other one, right now, it's very fortunate. I'm very grateful to be able to do something very impactful. We're working with a small school in Texas, not going to say where, but more to come on that. And we're helping them facilitate distance learning. Because I actually, my tech company, A3 Innovation, that I am the sole owner of, we're a Google Cloud partner. And as part of that, we're a Google for Education partner. So we work to help support schools and universities, K-12 and beyond, on implementing Google products, on best practices for using Google Classroom, facilitating online learning, how to use Google Meet. There's a lot of stuff that we do with that. So, and it's cool because we get to work hand in hand with Google in that effort. And I do all of that for free. All the education stuff I do for free. If you or somebody you know has an educator, please reach out. I would absolutely love to help them out. It's what we do. It's a passion of mine. That's a really long-winded explanation. Lee, how have you been impacted by COVID? Are you more busy or less busy?
Oh, I'm busier than ever. Busier than a one-armed monkey in a poofing contest.
Ooh, hey, we have Ducket Bucket numbers to go over. Matthew guesses 23. LOL.
No.
No? Okay. Adam guesses 24.
Also no.
Hannah guesses 28.
That's the current leader.
Okay, so Hannah is the leader at 28, not quite accurate. Adam was at 26 with the last most accurate. So we keep getting closer and closer.
I tell you.
What?
All right, we only got a few minutes to go here, so.
Oh no, it is time for final thoughts.
It is. We just weaseled our way to the end of another episode. Nobody even noticed.
Man, I can't believe we're almost up for an hour. That's crazy.
Every time.
Yeah, every single time. It just flies by. Thanks entirely to our guests who make it the whole process so easy and nice and wonderful. We're very happy to be able to deliver this content to all of you out there viewing. The audience, it's about you. So if there's anything that you want to see, please let us know in the comments over here. Darn it, I'm pointing to Lee. I always get that wrong. Letting us know over here. These are the comments that you want to be dropping out there to everybody on LinkedIn. Take part in the Ducket Bucket Challenge. Winner will be announced in the comments.
Right.
Current leader is Hannah at 28, and we will be ending that at the end of the day today. So make sure to get your guesses in. Now,
the episode actually.
Make sure to leave your size, okay?
Yeah, and we will. Whoever the winner is, we will get with you on the size as well, and so we'll make sure that we get that. Now, you guys know what time it is. It is time for final thoughts. And Scott, here's how it works. As our honored guest, you will be going first. We're going to put you in single screen mode, and you will have 30 seconds, a minute and a half, or however long you want, to talk about what's on your mind and what you want to leave the audience with. So without further ado, I will go ahead and put you on single screen, brother, and the floor is yours.
Nice. So final thoughts. I would say in a couple of different fronts, let's make sure that we are reaching out to people and helping out. I have a few friends on LinkedIn that I have met, and not just, again, that's one bucket for me where I haven't noticed that they've been participating so much in kind of the social effort. So I reached out to them. I sent them a text, said, "Hey, how's everything going? You doing okay?" So on that front, they reciprocated back, and they text back and they said, "Man, I didn't notice that no one noticed me." I said, "I notice all the time." So little things like that, little gestures make a huge difference. Be patient at home. There are a lot of people that get nervous, and everyone responds differently. So your kids are watching, and the people that you love are watching as well. Just take your time and slow it down. Just say no problem, back off, peel off, and just wait for them to be ready. And then on the work front, I know there are a lot of people out there who may be struggling or not struggling, but just be cognizant of that and just be ready to help and be optimistic. Don't worry about so many things that you can't control. Everything will bounce back. It's going to. I think it's a great time because me being an optimist, when things change, they usually change for the better because it's usually needed. So look at it from that perspective versus what you've lost versus what you're going to gain. So that's all I got.
Thank you very, very much, Scott. And thank you again for being on the show with us. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. And guys, those are some fire final thoughts, as they always are. Mr. Rowley, we will put you on solo screen next, Senior, while I go retrieve a special surprise that is definitely not my adorable son.
Oh, I wouldn't expect that at all. All right, well, let's do this. Scott, it's been so wonderful having you on. Each and every episode, we have people on who are way smarter than I am, and it just really takes the pressure off me because you could really educate our audience on very important topics, and I don't have to do graphics. I just tell some stupid jokes here and there, so I really appreciate that. But more importantly, I love people who are atypical, and I don't love microphones that are channeling ambient noise, so I'm going to cut that. All right. I love atypical people. That's who, my daughter, in the 10 years that she was on this earth, was a very atypical person, and she attracted and championed atypical people, and that's who my crowd is. So I really love that I'm finding all these wonderful people who are willing to step in here and just have real, raw conversations that we need to be having. And I knew as soon as I started listening to your podcast episode this morning, I'm like, this is it, because I knew it was going to be a great episode because we're about talking about things that are not normal, and these things need to be brought to light. They need to be, and the people who are dealing with these things, they need to know that they're not alone. So again, I'm just so absolutely grateful for you for stepping in and being willing to talk about those things. So guys, if you haven't checked out his podcast, definitely do that. And then I'm going to go and turn things over here to Alex so that I can start counting I can double count we got to keep everybody accountable, right?
You have a
There's a lot at stake here.
and
Look at
and I'm
him.
sure you guys all heard Blues for somebody is a little upset, but I will do my final thoughts standing up and looking down as I try to comfort a certain grumpy individual. Lee, can you jump me on full screen, por favor?
Yeah, I think we'll see. There we go.
Thank you so much, Lee. All right, guys. So I've got Mango here with me, who's the most adorable thing in the world, and I absolutely love him. But the final thoughts for me today are similar to everything. Just be a better person today than you were yesterday. Tell the people that you love them. Check in on your friends. We're all in this together. Now is not the time to be a salesman. Now is the time to be altruistic. Now is the time to care about people. And now is the time that you have a chance to really make a difference in somebody's life, and spend time with your kids to work on that, that relationship that you have with them, and to really focus on the things that are important to you in your life. So just remember that, keep on loving each other, keep on caring about each other, and keep on moving forward, because we will get through this, and we will get through this together. So that's all I've got. Mango, you have anything, buddy? Tired? Okay. He's tired. I'll give him a break. There we go. Okay.
Thank you very much, Alex. And just real quick, I'm going to play just a tick off Facebook because it's just close enough to be in, not public domain, but it's still public domain, so they can't really say crap about it. So, and anybody who grew up in the 70s and watched the Electric Company on television, 31. So did anybody get it right?
Yeah, I think we did have that, actually. Hold on, let me find out who that was. Adam Vegas with 31 actual guests. Well done, Adam. You win. So we'll link up with you in some messages and get your t-shirt size, or just drop it in the comments, and we'll make sure to get with you and get that t-shirt to you, on the caveat that we just get a nice picture of you in the t-shirt with a thumbs up that we can get back to Scott here. Which, huge shout out to Scott for giving away that t-shirt for Healthcare 360. And thank you, as always, for being part of BowtieUP Live.
That's absolutely
great, man. Keep going. I love the show. It's awesome.
Thank you. Congratulations, Adam, for the t-shirt, and thank you everybody for being part of this show. Thank you, Scott, for spending some time with us. We will see you again tomorrow at 4:15 plus 5 minutes, because we're not allowed to tell you what time the dang podcast live stream actually starts. We will be back with Canna Catus tomorrow. Until then, be present and be well.
See you, everybody.
You.